ISIS believes that their evil and demonic acts are holy. There's no better authority on this sick mindset of jihad and what it means for the world than Dr. Michael Youssef. Dr. Youssef is the founder and president of Leading the Way Ministries in Atlanta, Georgia. You see his great programs here on TBN every week. He's also the author of several best-selling books, including his latest, The Barbarians Are Here. I caught up with Dr. Youssef recently at the White House, where we discussed the book, Christian persecution, and what ISIS is doing in your backyard. Take a look. Dr. Youssef, thanks so much for joining us here on The Watchman.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you.
At the White House, where you just had a meeting with some Trump administration officials. We're glad to hear that. And you're also here for a summit in D.C. on Christian persecution.
Yes.
We're going to talk about your great new book, The Barbarians Are Here. But Dr. Youssef, if you can, talk a bit about this summit on Christian persecution, such a big issue for us.
I really tip my hat to Franklin Graham, who used the resources that he has at his disposal and the connections around the world to bring these Christian leaders from 136 countries, trying to highlight the plight of the persecution of Christians around the world. Vice President Pence came and he gave a very moving speech and really committed the administration to helping the persecuted Christians around the world. This administration, I think, gets it. For the first time. I don't think previous administrations of any political stripe got it as much as these people do. And I'm so grateful for them. I've talked to some of the leaders inside that building and they really understand the problem. It's very, very important that we get the attention of the government, attention of Christian leaders. There's so many Christian leaders in America and they said, oh yeah, isn't that so bad? And then they fold their arms as if nothing. They're not doing what needs to be done. Pray for the persecuted. Give to support those ministries that are working with the persecuted.
This is the issue of our times, the rise of jihadism, radical Islam. You write about it so eloquently in your book, The Barbarians Are Here. And one chapter in particular, really in the beginning of the book, Doctor, really caught my attention right away. You talk about our exile here in the West. When I think of exile, I think about the Babylonian exile, the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Describe that. What do you mean by our exile here in the West?
Well, in a sense, this is where my inspiration came from history. When you see it happen again and again and again, not only as we see it in the book of Jeremiah in the Old Testament, when God said to his people, turn to me, and get back to biblical faith, and they refused. And finally God says, okay, I'm taking my hands off, and the Babylonians came and took them into exile. Babylonians are the equal of our terrorists of today.
And you say in the book, history repeats itself.
Repeats itself. And it happened again in the 7th century when Christians in North Africa, who, by the way, comprised about 90% of the population, when the Arab invaders came. And because they would not stand up for biblical truth and said, well, you know, God can still speak and authoritatively and so forth. And they bought into that heresy. Islam came within 35 years. All of these thousands of churches turned into mosques. And so here we are, we're repeating that same mistake. Whenever the Christian faith goes down, a vacuum is created. And throughout the last 1400 years, when that vacuum is created, Islam must fill it.
Up next, more with Dr. Michael Youssef. The barbarians are here. So how can they be stopped? Find out after the break. It's The Watchman. It's Christians United for Israel. Only right here on TBN. Don't move.